So I'm filling the slots for the original stock motor mount. So my left and right side panel, I want the outside of the panels up, and cutting these pieces so I'm getting the laser cut mark on the outside. I'll fill these slots, epoxy these in, and that's so if I want to do any clear, leave the natural look on the rigger, on the tub, it'll look like, it'll give the appearance of having a former in there. And that's just me fussing. So I'll epoxy this in here, flush on this side, sand this down. I have these dry fit and oriented which way the formers go. Using 15-minute epoxy for all of this. Gives me plenty of time to get all these formers in place and squared up. I have cups, epoxy cups for my bigger mixes. For sealing for sure, with popsicle sticks and brushes. But for these smaller mixes, I use envelopes. Mix up in small batches, small screwdriver. And smear some epoxy in each slot. I have it pinned right next to each former. These have a little bit of a bow to the sheets, so pin flat on the board, should square up nice. This one's above the surface. Again, this interlocking tab drops into the floor, so the floor will be right up against that surface. I am not going to do the battery tray until I epoxy the two sides together. When it becomes a unit is when I will epoxy those in. I don't think there's any way those small pieces, so I'm putting the one up into this bay, so hiding numbers basically. But as I was saying, I don't think there's any way I'm going to get these pieces square. Pop the square up here. Push it so it's in there flush. I'll come back regular with the square and check these as the epoxy cures. I can tell when it's cured by checking my latest mix. Here's the mix for filling the holes for the stock motor mount. That's the mix for these pieces. So I'll come back and check it, check that it stays square. Good day to work on boats. Let's get back to it. These are cured. Epoxy's all hardened. Kept checking it for square. Looks like it came out really good. I'm deviating from the manual slightly. They have these three glued in and the transom, which I'm not going to do. One of the reasons is I noticed with my mock-up when I had these three taped together how it becomes such a nice unit. Here's the plan. I have the sides taped to the bottom. So this side is the side that they're epoxied to. I can hinge this out with the tape like this. Then apply my epoxy along these joints and on the bottoms of the formers here. Rotate that up. At that point, I'll put these pieces in for the battery tray. Epoxying on the bottoms and where they fit into the sides. Then hinge epoxy in this joint and on the sides of the formers here. And then hinge this up. So I'm feeling something that's binding, and it's what's binding. The battery tray cross members. These holes are up off the bottom because these are two tabs that drop in there. Very interesting how nicely that fits. Okay, so at that point, everything's epoxied. Battery tray cross members are in. Both sides are epoxied on. All the joints down the sides and the bottom. The battery tray cross members and these formers. This is what I mean by it being such a nice unit. So I will keep this pinned to the bench while it cures, but watch this. If I set this on my board with everything just hinged together from the tape, put my straight edge on it, very nice and straight down that side. Very nice and straight down the bottom. Very straight down this side. Well within, I could see just a very slight amount of light in that gap there, but well within what I would want for building a straight and square tub. So that's the laser cutting for you. The bottom holds the sides straight. The sides hold the bottom straight. And with this pinned down to the bench, won't have any twist as it cures. That'd be the other thing you could build in here, is you could build in some twist. But I can even feel how much this interlocks. These sides, these aren't two pieces just butted like this. These are interlocked, the sides and the bottoms, so they hold each other square in opposing directions. So that's the plan, how I'm going to epoxy this together. Then it'll be add the battery tray. So kind of doing a dry run here right now as I'm talking. Battery tray, and then I can put the transom in from the back and the doubler. That should not be a problem. So I'll get all that epoxied together and I'll show that to you when I get that done. The sides of the tub is epoxied to the bottom. All the formers are in. I have the battery tray cross members epoxied in place. Using the tape hinge method that I did the dry run on earlier. I have the tub pinned to the board where I could get to it. Wasn't very many places. Can't catch any edges up here. So I have it weighted down with some very expensive weights. The only thing left to go in, which I've already dry fitted, is the transom and the doubler and the battery tray. And I'll have to seal the bottom of the battery tray before I epoxy it in place, since I won't be able to access the bottom of the battery tray. So now it's a matter of waiting for this to cure. Should be nice and straight and square. This is ready to come off of here. Epoxy is cured. It'll be a nice, straight, square tub. Man, that is looking beautiful. Here's a close-up shot of these plugs that I put in these holes that were for the stock motor mount, which I am not using. I used pieces of plywood off the laser cut sheets that had that laser cut edge, burnt edge on it. That way, if I choose to go with a natural finish anywhere, they'll just have the appearance of a former being in there. Next up on the build, epoxy the transom in, do some sealing inside the tub before we put the battery tray in. I have the former for the nose block epoxy in place and have to put the front bottom sheeting on. Then it'll be top sheeting, and after we get the top sheeting on, I have a fun project coming up. I bought this ABS cowling, the Stealth cowling, and it's for the version 1. I thought I could use it. It's wide enough, but scale wise it's not big enough. It's not long enough, and I need to scale it up. So I bought some 16th plywood, long enough piece of plywood, and some 2-ounce fiberglass cloth. We're going to make a one-off Stealth cowling for the version 2 tub.